Hello and welcome. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic the Gathering from Time Ball Games in Bellingham, Mass. We are playing live over the internet. Peter here, I believe, all the way from England. It's incredible how we've been able to connect the community. We've got players from New Jersey, New York, Texas, California, New England, all over the place. Now, Peter is on a spicy brew here. It's going to be Shared Fate, a control deck that has Shared Fate as a sort of finisher. Now we see Dead of Winter along with Oko, Drown on the Lock, Force of Will. I suspect Oko will be the card to go here, as Matt's on Dead Guy Ale and probably used to being the spicier list at the table. But I feel like that might have to go to Peter here. Let's see. Basic Island so far for Peter. He's going to look to ramp up, eventually sweep the board with that Dead of Winter, and perhaps jam a Shared Fate and leave Matt just drawing kind of useless cards. It's going to be a strong pivot, as it's all answers. You know, your opponent's moving in one direction with Dead Guy Ale, trying to build board supremacy and find a way to cross that finish line, and now they just start drawing, answers instead of threats. Makes it very difficult to rebuild. Now, I believe there's a Drown on the Lock already in hand. We've got a Ponder. I thought it was Drown on the Lock. A little surprised that it didn't take out this Mother Runes during the end step. Grove of the Burn Willows. And green-black for Abrupt Decay. Lingering Souls, which is going to make spot removal pretty inefficient. We'll see if Matt is patient with this flashback. I believe we do have that Dead of Winter still. And here's a Shared Fate. Matt is now going to be drawing cards off the top of Peter's deck, essentially. They're going to be exiled, and he's going to be casting them. What a crazy thing to have on camera here. It's going to be challenging. We'll see if we can make this work. We've got Ponder, and no mana to cast it. Lingering Souls comes in for a couple damage, and is actually flashed back right away. We'll see if Peter clears these or if he waits for stronger cards. A Tidehollow Sculler, no white mana yet. And just passing the turn, so no play for Peter. 4 damage. Plague Engineer, and I got to imagine he has to use this Dead of Winter now. 6 damage, that's a 2-turn clock. There's no real reason for Matt to commit any more to the board. Oh, actually, Batterskull, that's a valid consideration. But I think you still want to clear that Plague Engineer, honestly. Otherwise, Batterskull can't really attack profitably, and he is going to Dead of Winter. That is going to clear all of these small creatures. And a Thoughtseize for Matt. Off the top, we've got a Dark Confidant. And actually not opting to Thoughtseize, interestingly enough. We've got a Swamp, which Peter could opt to play. Batterskull put off to the side. Swords to Plowshares. I may have missed the Batterskull being cast there. It looks like Peter gained 4 life off of the Swords to Plowshares. Unfortunately, can't return it to Peter's hand. It can only go back to Matt's hand if he pays 3. So it would actually go back to Matt. So he'll need another body, and then he can slap that equipment on. Lands coming off the top, useful. We've got a scrub land and a swamp. And a Tidehollow Sculler. Swords to Plowshares. And that takes out the Tidehollow Sculler. Matt not really hitting much in the way of useful mana to cast anything from Peter's deck. Not that that's what you want to be doing. Matt really wants to be attacking with a menagerie of creatures. You got zombies and humans, Stoneforge Mystic, spirits, germ tokens. I mean, he really wants to get a whole bunch of pressure, and Shared Fate making a mess of that. Another cantrip and still no blue mana. Still no blue for Matt. Oh, and actually scooping it up there. Interesting. So Matt, perhaps with a solid tournament decision there. Now, if this was Kitchen Table Magic, there is no way you scoop there. Like, not a chance. Like, you, from that board state as I read it, that could have went either way. Peter's definitely favored, but there was certainly a chance for Matt to draw out of that. However, in a tournament setting, Matt understands what he's up against here. He's playing a control deck, and with Peter up a game, he's going to want to win the next two. You do not want to go in a situation where your opponent wins a game after like a half hour and then is playing a dirtily deck that can just take you right to time, which is something this list looks like it could very easily do, very dirtily. You can actually see our deck list now on MTG Top 8. We started listing those. Hopefully that'll get even more players joining the fun. Been very happy with attendance as we've been growing these events. May end up being a important part of the overall picture here for the store coming into next year. If you don't have a webcam set up yet, it is a really good idea to make that happen. I mean, certainly there's not going to be any in-store play this year, and it is, probably unlikely for next year. I think it's one of those situations globally here where it's just time to make the best of it and get the webcam events going. Worst case scenario, if anything like this ever happens again, you'll be ready and we can hit the ground running with web events. But I think we're just going to start building out. Been talking to some people about getting some Saturday events going. We are going to have a Commander event. I believe this video is coming out on Friday, so tomorrow, Saturday. We've got some incredible prize support donated for that by Fee, a friend of the channel. And Inquisition of Kozilek leading out, having its pick. And it's going to take the Ponder, leaving Dead of Winter, which is a very dangerous card. Very good at undoing everything that Matt's looking to do for the most part. -2/-2 to the entire board. It's kind of the minimum. I could certainly go much bigger, but not hard to get a couple of snow-covered islands. And if there are bigger creatures, it's not hard, to get to 4 or 5. But Peter does have, Grove of the Burn Willows and some other cards that obviously do not power it up. Plenty of duels and similar cards. We've got a Hymn to Torok. This is going after the hand. We're going to roll the dice and clear some of this out. Brainstorm and a Arkham's Astrolabe. So a couple of high quality cards there going to the bin. Would have been useful for helping Peter move forward. And instead he is facing down a Sword of Fire and Ice with no body on board. Drown on the Lock actually going to stop that. Wasteland. Not really something Peter's going to be super fearful of here, as his deck seems like it's got a pretty high mana count. Punishing Fire, Dead of Winter, and Abrupt Decay. Decay taken. Punishing Fire, not a great card to be grabbing. And Liliana the Last Hope. Now this could ramp up, and the ultimate would be pretty difficult to contend with. He does need to be careful here. He can't really use the minus, as it will get taken care of by Punishing Fire. Really wants to tick up. Actually, it's going to get taken up by Punishing Fire either way. This is no bueno. Punishing Fire hits her. And yeah, this is not really worth committing her to the board, as Peter's just going to be able to clear her. And it was one of the only things he could do with his hand. I mean, it was just Dead of Winter and Punishing Fire. So activating some cards, getting some value, and now a Thoughtseize as well. That is going to take a Kaya, leaving a couple of Thoughtseize in Matt's hand. And this is one of the reasons why Dead Guy Ale is not as popular as it once was. There are definitely decks that can function Hellbent or close to it. And a couple of Thoughtseizes sitting in Matt's hand. He'll probably have to throw one out here, and he may whiff again. No, he's going to find an Oko. That's pretty nice. So Dead of Winter and Punishing Fire in hand. And it looks like he's probably just going to take the Dead of Winter now. Just facing down a situation where your Thoughtseizes can actually brick is pretty awful. Mother of Runes. And she is just going to get Punishing Fired. The last card available to Peter. It's a really difficult to contend with Magic card here. The right play for Matt is likely just holding on to them. But no, he's got a Liliana. And she ticks up. Abrupt Decay clears the Lily. Punishing Fire shenanigans, not interested in those. Thalia is going to cost a little more, but she's likely to just get KO'd right now. I'm not familiar with Dead Guy Ale enough to really say what the correct line is. I can tell you it feels like it's just going to be overwhelmed by Punishing Fire taking these lines. I don't know. I mean, you kind of need like a lot of bodies to somehow get past this. A couple of Punishing Fires go to the graveyard thanks to him to Torok. But I mean, Mother of Runes can be helpful, but like you kind of need like multiple moms. It's just really difficult. Without sideboard help to handle Punishing Fire, it seems perfectly positioned to take out like everything in Dead Guy Ale. You know, Peter in terrible shape in theory. No cards in hand at one point, but Punishing Fire starting now to be able to be reused from the graveyard. And it may end up just being the win condition. It's a fun little bit of deck building, as if your opponent does reveal a Punishing Fire off of Shared Fate and they do use it, you're going to be able to get it back to your hand, which is pretty filthy. And Punishing Fire only needs a single life gain trigger. Oh, there's the Oko, and he may wrap this up a bit faster. As Arkham's Astrolabe becomes an Elk, it is not summoning sick. And this is going to do it. Oko makes the Elk, and then Punishing Fire deals the final point of damage as Peter takes down game number 2. is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.